with varying causes. One of those charities was the National Churches Trust for over 40 years. Well, joining me now is Eddie, Tulesevich, who is from the National Churches Trust. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Tell us about the Queen's relationship with the National Churches Trust.
Yeah, well, very nice to be on the show this afternoon, Jimoko. So we're the National Churches Trust. We were set up in 1953 to look after the UK's church buildings, and our job is really providing grants if they have leaking roofs or they need to install a loo. And so we were set up in 1953, 1 year after the Queen became the Queen, and she became our patron then, and she remained so until her death last week. So 69 years she was our royal patron.
Have you been fortunate enough to meet the Queen? And if so, what was that encounter like?
I didn't meet her in my current job, but I did when I was head of communications for the Diocese of Westminster, and she came over to Westminster Cathedral to meet the then Archbishop Cormac Murphy O'Connor, and she met the staff. It was just before he was due to retire, and what a gracious woman. There were about 60 of us there gathered to meet her. She met all of us, talked to all of us for a couple of minutes, found out what we did. Remarkable, and she was so interested in everything that we were telling her, and a smile on her face. A couple of little things I remember. One, there's a lot of stairs in Archbishop's house near Westminster Cathedral, and I noticed that she took particular care to make sure her feet landed on the stairs properly. You know, yes. A dreadful thing if she were to fall over.
Absolutely.
And the other thing was she was given a little tumbler of, I think it was whiskey with a bit of water in it. Now, she had a few sips of that, but she also kept that tumbler in her hands, which meant that she didn't actually have to shake anybody's hand, you know, just maintaining a little bit of social distancing before COVID, of course. But that was quite interesting. So, you know, nobody was able to shake the Queen's hand because she was gripping this tumbler of whiskey.
Tell me a bit more about the work of the National Churches Trust.
Yeah, well, back in 53, churches in the UK were in a terrible state. You know, there'd been the Second World War, there'd been the Great Depression. There wasn't money to fix churches. So the Queen, one of the reasons she became patron was really to give a boost to our charity. And as I said, our main job is supporting churches. There are 39,000 churches in the UK, Gosh. And you can be sure that every year several hundred will have leaking roofs. You know, more will want to put a loo in so that it can be used by the community. And this year we've given a grant, one church in London, to St Mary the Virgin in Lewisham, which is the ancient parish church in Lewisham. We gave them £30,000 to fix the roof. Right. And that's our job. We don't get any funding from the state or the Church of England. We raise all the money ourselves. And the important thing about having the Queen as patron, or indeed a member of the royal family, that it means we've got recognition, you know. People know that we're, to use that odd word, they know we're kosher, you know, we're the real thing. And it's also a great boost to the people who work for the Trust, because each year we got invitations to the Palace Garden parties. We only got 2 tickets, but it meant that staff and volunteers could go along, you know, have a few sandwiches, have a cup of tea. Didn't actually meet the Queen, but you were in Buckingham Palace meeting the great and the good. Yeah.
Are you hoping for another royal patron, sadly, since the Queen has sadly passed?
Interesting question. I mean, that we have no say in that. It'll be entirely up to King Charles III and his team to decide whether this is a charity that he will be patron of, he will inherit it from the Queen, or whether he chooses not to. You know, there are other members of the royal family who could become our royal patron. Our vice patron is the Duke of Gloucester right now. So, you know, we don't know. But interesting, of course, for the Queen, faith was really important. And she said in 2000 in her message, for me, the teachings of Christ and my own personal accountability before God provide the framework in which I try to lead my life. So, you know, faith and churches were really important to her, and they are to King Charles. In fact, all faiths are important to him. So, you know, we hope that he may decide to become our patron, but we have no say in that.
And how do you see her legacy, the Queen's legacy, continuing?
Well, I mean, Look, if you're 20 or that sort of age, you're going to remember today, aren't you?
Yeah.
And if you're 60 or 64, as I am, the Queen's been there as long as I've been alive, if not longer. So I think both sides, both generations will remember her, I think, for her kindness, her honesty, and also the fact that she was such a human being. She had her troubles as well. And, I think she found some ways to deal with those troubles through prayer, through faith, and I think that's an example to us all. The reason we keep going as a charity is because churches are so important. They're important for heritage, they're important for community, things like food banks or this winter places to keep warm, and they're also important as places of worship. So I think all those three things were the reasons the Queen supported our charity.
Well, Eddie, thank you so much for joining us and telling us about the charity. That's the National Churches Trust. I was speaking there to Eddie Tulesevic, who was talking about the Queen's involvement with the charity and what with the charity and what with the charity and what with the charity and what.